of the key practices of Christianity is hope. Hope ignited through faith that the seemingly impossible can change. There's a certain Christian imaginary that supersedes the logical cause or expected outcome of events. In Isaiah chapter 33, verse 6, it says that Yahweh will be the stability of your times. And I would encourage you to go read the entire chapter to get the context. It does not matter how crazy things are and have become. Living with hope is a deliberate and sure way to stem the anxiety that is now the default response in our world. The Christian imaginary, however, amid the wilderness, is evident to faith. When Emmanuel Katangole reflected on the genocide in Rwanda in 1994, which he regards as a mirror to the church to embrace a new identity, he says that the resurrection of the church begins with lament. How could Hutus and Tutsis after the genocide embrace a new identity in Christ? Lamenting is not a natural response in a world driven to find solutions as quickly as possible that still stigmatizes the effects of trauma for the sake of resuming the usual means of production, of returning again to the normative standards of society. Yet to lament is deeply spiritual, and it is a practice that restores and heals our broken humanity. Currently in our country, in the hearts of many, there is an intrinsic lamenting for the conditions that we are in. Deep divisions create mistrust, especially between average citizens and the state. We lament because it is the appropriate set of emotions and the emotional response that will ignite change. To lament is to experience a measure of grief. It is putting pressure on the wound that makes you acutely feel it and yet also make the bleeding to stop. We lament the corruption in South Africa. We lament the levels of crime and violence. We lament the suffering of millions of orphans and vulnerable children in our country. We lament the lies. We lament the divisions in the church. We lament our own spiritual condition. In our lamenting, confession is a natural outpour of our hearts. And in our vulnerability, we become aware of the issues of trust that we need to rebuild. Trusting that God is the stability of our times and learning again to trust others. We find again a connection to others on a visceral level, where in our lamenting we become so exposed that fear disappears. And then a perspective change happens. Seeing the same situation, but with courage of faith. And in that moment, we become grateful for who we are, that we are here, and that the opportunity exists that things can change. To lament is to ultimately fashion a holy space, a spontaneous liturgy, a practice that we can incorporate into our lives and return to over and over again when we face the injustices in our world and when suffering occurs unprovoked. Right now, and in the coming days, I encourage you to open yourself to lament the wrongs that you see in the world and make it a prayer. Write it down and look at it again after a few days in order to experience that same emotion. Jesus finds Mary and Martha lamenting the death of their brother Lazarus, and Jesus weeps. God weeps, and he feels the disappointment and the sadness of his friends. And through lamenting comes the wholeness and greater revelation. The restoration of Lazarus to life happens through Jesus' lament. Embrace follows lament.